Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Nick Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode number 99. Yes, the very next episode will be episode 100. And that one is going to be talking about an anniversary story that most of it was lost. And there's a reason why I'm saving that for episode 100, because one of the characters from that story came back recently in New Who. Who is it? You'll find next episode. Alright, this time we're talking about a quick two-parter known as The Edge of Destruction. A quick two-parter for Doctor Who. Yeah, this is actually for the start. This was the shortest Doctor Who story for parts. Yes, there will not be another two-parter again for Doctor Who after this until the rescue. Yep, that'll be the next one. These are the ones I have left to go. And after the rescue, the next two-parter is, I'm looking right now. What is the next one? I didn't mention that's a standalone episode. Yeah, first and only standalone episode of the whole series. So for ones that are two-parters, Second Doctor doesn't have any. No, he does not. You're thinking, okay, ones left to go. Is it, how many for the Third Doctor? 0. Fourth Doctor? 0. Fifth Doctor? 2. Black Orchid and The Awakening. Sixth Doctor, there is 3. No, 4. 4 two-parters. Vincent Vorlas, The Mark of Ronnie, and Time Lash, along with Ultimate Foe. Seventh Doctor. Is there any two-parters and so on of the ones left to review? No, because mostly everything else here is mostly either 4 or 3 parts. So, one I get a chance to go through those stories there. Like, I do have some of them here. They won't take very long, per se. So this episode was commonly referred to in shows as a bottle show. The whole episode, this whole two-part takes place inside the TARDIS. The only time they ever go outside the TARDIS is actually at the end of the second part. We pick up right where we left off last episode, where the TARDIS is like there's some explosion happening, and we actually learn details about the TARDIS in this one. Like, I think it's explained in part 2. We explain about the pillar that goes up and down. The thing that's been in pretty much the whole series. Even if it looks different, it pretty much functions the same. Even the whole noise thing they mentioned that happens in this one, it happens in all the stories. The thing with the noise is, that is actually not explained to the 11th Doctor, where that the noise is actually Dr. leaving emergency brake on. That's why it makes noise, but the Doctor likes that noise. That's why he would know he's coming. But in Classic Who, it was never explained of what the heck that noise is. Aside from the fact it just signifies TARDIS is moving. I'm thinking that Stephen Moffat wrote that in there because the whole emergency brake thing. Probably because basically that is probably what he came up with, the whole emergency brake. So, by the way, I forgot to mention this in the, I think it was toward the end of the first story, where they brought out the food processor. Here is basically, I think she's on water. Also, there's a little bit of candy here, and it just basically keeps them fed. We also see apparently that that the TARDIS. Okay, so here's more things revealed about the TARDIS. It's like this whole thing is the whole two-parter. Aside from the fact that they're trying to avoid their destruction, is that we can learn details about the TARDIS. Because prior to this, what do we know about this thing? Is she like a place box? Has this console? Has a room, which is a Geiger counter, but not much else. In this one, we actually spend a little bit here. One thing that's revealed at the end of this that's very commonplace, and people that belong to fans do know about. This is the first mention about the TARDIS's wardrobe. Yes, it's an extensive wardrobe that the TARDIS somehow has. And it has pretty much been there from that point forward, because prior to this two-parter, in the previous two stories, there's no mention of basically a wardrobe room. Here we have a wardrobe room. Yep. That is simply what's happening here, is that we have wardrobe room, and this is the first mention of it. Now, if you're really curious, what is the first thing this room has ever seen on Doctor Who? I don't remember it showing up any time during First Strike. It's been a long time. Now, prior to watching these three stories here, I had not watched these stories since 2010. Yes, so I had not watched these stories in like 15 years. So, I think the only time normally it's shown up, the wardrobe room, is mostly post-regeneration stories. Like, did it pop up Power the Doctor? Not really. He just opened box, changed clothes. It did not happen with the third Doctor because we didn't see a lot of TARDIS throughout that period of time. Fourth Doctor, no. I would say the first we ever saw the wardrobe room was actually during Cast of Alva. That was the first time it was ever seen. Yes, it was also seen during Twin Dilemma. I don't think it popped up during Seven Doctors one. I don't remember if it did. I know definitely didn't show up in Doctor Who movie. Now, if you're curious, did it pop up when Christopher Eccleston was a Doctor? Nope, never did. Tennyson, yes, it did. In the case of Matt Smith, it popped up a few times with the course that one. 12th, I think like 2, maybe 3 times the wardrobe popped up in that one. 13th. I don't think it ever did. No, they never showed the wardrobe on 13th. I don't know about 14, 15 because I have not seen those stories yet. But I'm going that off of memory. That's pretty much basically what I'm doing here with that one. What's up with this like? So, basically, and of course, also, everybody's paranoid each other. Susan's got scissors, trying to stab somebody. We also see that the clothes that now here's the thing. The outfit that Ian wore in the last story, he's still wearing it. Here, it's basically, he's still wearing an outfit. He then switches out to a bathrobe halfway to the story, for seemingly no reason. Susan and Barbara are wearing what looks like to be blankets. And what appears to be sort of this room where the food processor is, apparently there's sort of this bed in the TARDIS. This is the first ever time we've seen an actual bed in the TARDIS. Yes, beds have been seen frequently in the TARDIS. I think the first time I can think of they've ever shown someone's personal room. Like, the thing is, in case you're curious though, who was the first Doctor to actually have a companion, to have a room in the actual TARDIS itself? Off the top of my head, the first one I can think of is Romana. She's the first one I can think of. And in case you're curious, Fifth Doctor did the same thing, where we have Tegan, Nyssa, and Adric. I believe all 3 of these people have bad rooms on TARDIS. Perry, I think she did. I think Turlo did too. Bulba, Ace, and Mel. I don't remember if they ever did, that I can think of. 8th Doctor didn't bother with this at all, because only one, like 2 stories with him. Eccleston, no. They never show a room for Rose, for her when she was shot with Eccleston or even David Tennison. Never, as far as I can tell. The first thing I could think of during New Who, where they actually show a companion, at least mention of a companion's room, is actually 11th Doctor. Matt Smith, he's the first one I could think of. Clara never had a room of her own on the TARDIS, because the good thing of Modern Who is they would actually go a lot to modern day, mostly as a costing measure. They can't go alien planet to it like they did during the classic era. Yeah, and of course, Doctor says some nasty things to Ian and Barbara. At one point, nearly trying to deport her off the ship. Of course, they don't know where they are. And eventually it's found out, toward the end of the story, of what actually is going on. The fast return switch was stuck. Yes, it was stuck. By the way, also one thing happened. Doctor fell over. He had a cut in his hip, not very deep. So basically, a lot of the story, he's wearing a bandage on his head. Yep, bandage. Susan is a bit shocked, per se. So at one point of Eden carrying her, and it looked like at one point the actor playing him is actually touching Susan's rear end when he's attempting to put her down. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. Like, even basically, like, well, I get the fact he's trying to adjust her, but almost seems like he was touching her butt. I'm not sure why this was, but I'm sure that the actors probably didn't mind it much at all because it was very brief. So it wasn't necessarily a big issue per se. I'm sure the BBC probably wanted to have this happen because I'm sure viewers at this point were curious about the TARDIS aside from its caveman adventure and its psychedelics. I like the first two, which do have follow-ups. This one had tiny bits of follow-up over the years. This two-parter, mostly for the performance of expansions on the TARDIS itself. If you want to think of one Doctor who extensively explored a lot of TARDIS, it's probably the Fourth Doctor. Yeah, he was the first one that did this. Yeah, the Fourth Doctor, the first one did this. Fifth Doctor did this as well. Sixth Doctor, not that I can think of, no. But what about Seventh? No. Half the time he wasn't in TARDIS anyways. He was in TARDIS maybe for like 2 scenes and he's outside. Yes. In the case of New not a lot per se. I'd say the first Doctor to actually have an episode that explored the interior of the TARDIS. Because Eccleston? Nope. What about David Tennant? I think the Christmas Invasion. But aside from that, they didn't really explore the TARDIS very much during his era. I would say the first major Doctor to have exploration of TARDIS was probably during Matt Smith's run. During the popular Doctor Who episode, The Doctor's Wife. That was the first time they ever explored the TARDIS itself. And there's been a couple other times since then, but not a lot per se. It's not very popular. It's not a thing that the writers of Doctor Who want to do, explore the TARDIS. This is why Doctor Who fans do love seeing the interior of the TARDIS because it's supposed to be this massive thing that is. It just basically undefined how big this place is. And they've never actually explored it. Like, if you want to think of like the very first story to have an extensive look at the TARDIS, kind of, was during the Invasion of Time. Despite the fact that was all shot in a hospital. Yes, that was all shot in a hospital. A shut-down hospital, mind you. But aside from the paranoia stuff and the fixed variant, the ending has sort of a cliffhanger that leads into Marco Polo with the whole thing like, oh, snow. And of course you have, oh, look, a giant footprint. Yes, a giant footprint. Yeah. Now, the DVD itself does include a condensed 30-minute reconstruction of the whole story. Mm-hmm. But I think it's one basically I personally would actually like to see because this Wonder Circle actually do kind of like the premise of it, basically kind of Marco Polo. But as for its destruction, it's okay. I do like it's basically seeing this stuff we see before. It doesn't really advance the story of the series much at all, and it's the first one not to feature a planet. It's just all inside the TARDIS. And like I said, the term for this one is bottle episode. Yep, it is the very first bottle episode of Doctor Who history. Apparently it was commissioned as a filler, but it was really good. The story was written by Dave Whitaker, who apparently was also the script editor. It was directed by first part by Richard Martin, and the second part by Richard Frank Cox. Yeah, and this was something that, to my knowledge, didn't really have any follow-up. Yeah. But oh yeah, and they do reference basically the first story, the dialects, of course. So apparently there was a reference to Quina, which was explored in an audio story. Oh, also there is a coat that Ian wears in the story, and he got that from Gilbert and Sullivan. You're like, that's interesting. Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, this is the first one to feature just Doctor Who and his companions, nothing else. Yep, and apparently it's the only one that takes place inside the TARDIS. It exists on 60mm telerecordings. Apparently, this was the cheapest Doctor Who made at £2,500. Now, the fast forward switch, I don't think it was a feature ever again in this thing. No, not really. Weirdly enough, that they did release this two-parter on a separate DVD, but probably the best way you can find this thing is, well, on this particular one. Yep, but not much else to say about this two-parter. So that is pretty much it. Particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up is the Comic Corner. Okay, thanks, Phil. Bye.